أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وحبيب قلوب العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. صلى الله عليك يا مولاي يا رسول الله، صلى الله وسلم عليك يا مولاي وابن مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا مصباح الهدى وسفينة النجاة ويا عبرة المؤمنين شهيد العمامة والرداء، ما خاب والله من تمسك بكم، أمن من لجأ بكم سيدي، فنفوز فوزا عظيما. قال الله في محكم كتابه الكريم: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، وقل اعملوا فسيرى الله عملكم ورسوله والمؤمنون وستردون إلى عالم الغيب والشهادة فينبئكم بما كنتم تعملون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Blessing this gathering with the remembrance of Muhammad and Al Muhammad. A second salawat for the love of our Mawla Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. A third salawat for the hastening of the reappearance of our Mawla Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman. May our souls be sacrificed to him. In 1985, my grandfather, Ayatollah Sayyid Murtada al-Qazwini, may Allah prolong his life, he immigrated to the United States due to safety concerns. His life was in danger. The life of his family was in danger. So he emigrated to the United States. And he was accustomed to reciting majalis from an early age. In Iran, in Iraq, in Kuwait, in Bahrain, in all parts of the world, he would travel and give majalis and do the khidmah of Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. And the year that he immigrated to the United States, it was maybe a week or two before Muharram. And he hadn't received an invitation. He was new to the community. He didn't know anybody. And he was anxious. He was worried that he might not be able to partake in what he was accustomed to every single year. And he got to know a couple of mu'mineen within the community. He asked them, do you hold majalis? Do you have a matam? Do you have a place where you hold majalis? They say no. He asks them, would you offer your homes? Would you offer anywhere we can hold the majalis or have a matam? They make excuses. They say no. So he becomes worried. And he makes dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will ease the process of finding a place to have those majalis. A couple days later, one of the mu'mineen in the community gives him a call. He tells him, Sayyidina, there's a place. It's old. It's in need of repairs. It's unmaintained. Don't be excited. Come see it first. And the Sayyid goes. He wears his imamah. He wears his abah. He goes directly to the place. unmaintained, it's dirty. It needs a lot of work, but with the help of the community he was depending on, he knew it would be ready for majalis in no time. And he gets on the phone, he calls some of the mu'mineen he knew in the area. He said, I found a place, come and help me, prepare it to make it a matam, to have majalis. And they all make excuses. They say, we're busy, we can't make it. Beside his children, no one was there to help him, so he grabbed a broom, he grabbed a mop, he grabbed a vacuum, and he began to clean the majlis. He began to clean the matam, the area where the majlises would be held. Hours later, members of the community show up after everything is done, the work is finished, and they see the Sayyid's tired, he's sweaty, he's been working all day. At that age, his clothes are dusty and dirty, and they feel embarrassed. They tell him, Sayyidina, we're sorry. We really wanted to make it, and they apologized. And he tells them, don't apologize. Don't apologize, because for me, it's my honor and my privilege to be the janitor of Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. After that, the community became engaged. They became motivated. People brought rugs and carpets from their home. Individuals brought the black cloths that they covered the walls with. There was a carpenter in the community that built the mimbar by hand, and they had majalis. Our ma'atim, these physical spaces, this matam, the majalis, they're extremely important. And the physical space is the most important place within our lives when we live abroad, when we live in the West. You see, these ma'atim, they're where we receive, these centers, they're where we receive our education. They're our kitchens, they're our funeral homes, they're where we gather as a community. They're everything. They're the most important places, and they're sacred. The physical space is sacred. Because each matam, each physical space in which we honor Al-Imam al-Hussein in, that is a mazar, that is a place where you visit, you do the visitation of Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. My dear loved ones, after the pandemic, many people became accustomed to watching majalis from home, watching a live stream, and that's how they attended the majalis. And still today, some people cannot get out of that habit. They can't go and attend the majalis in person. But there's a huge blessing in attending these majalis in person. There's something you can't get while you're at home, sitting on your couch. Yeah, I'm sure it's convenient. You don't have to drive. You don't have to leave. It's comfortable. But you don't get that same barakah. You don't get that same camaraderie. You don't share that same connection with the community as if you were to attend in person. Now, we have to ask ourselves 3 questions, important questions. First of all, why is it that we hold majalis? Year after year, the lovers of Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, we wear black, we cry, we lament. Why is it that we do that? Secondly, why is it important to attend the matam in person? Why is this space important? And third, what does it take to have a successful center, a successful matam? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. My dear loved ones, the majalis of Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, these majalis that we partake in, these majalis are the beacon for tawheed, for monotheism, for the phrase of La ilaha illallah. They are the calibration of our compass, our moral and spiritual compass on the sirat, the correct sirat. These majalis are how you become a mu'min rapidly. You see? That all the Ahlul Bayt, they are the ships of salvation. Ahlul Bayt kulluhum safinatun najat, lakin safinatul Hussein akbar, awsa' wa asra'. The safina, the ark of salvation of Al-Imam al-Hussein, has more room. It's roomier, it's quicker, and it's more powerful than the rest of those arks of salvation. We hold majalis, my dear loved ones, because we follow in the footsteps of the prophets, of the angels, of the... If we want to be good Muslims, we follow the Quran, the Sunnah, the Ahlul Bayt, right? You know that when the Imam was born, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, when he was born, the Prophet, he was happy, filled with joy. He sacrificed a lamb for him, and moments later, he began to cry. He began to sob. Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam was confused. She said, "My dear father, why are you crying? We've been blessed with a child." He tells her that Jibreel just descended from the heavens and he told me that this young boy, this beautiful young child, is going to be murdered by my own ummah. And he cried for Imam al-Hussein. You want to follow in the footsteps of Rasulullah? You attend these majalis. You cry for Imam al-Hussein. That is who we learn from. The Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, all the Imams, their tradition was to lament, to hold majalis, to keep the memory of their grandfather, Imam al-Hussein, alive. Imam Zainul Abidin, his way of delivering the message of Ashura and what happened to his family was through lamentation. Arabs, in Arab culture, it's customary that when you lose someone, people visit you in your home and you offer them some food and you lament and you cry together. Imam Zain al-Abidin, he used this, and the rest of Bani Hashim and As-Sayyidah Zainab, they used this as an opportunity to evade the spies of Bani Umayyah and to spread the teachings of Imam al-Hussein and to offer knowledge of what truly happened, what Imam al-Hussein stood for. Those were the early majalis. That is where we get this knowledge from, this tradition from. Imam Zain al-Abidin, his way of communicating what happened was through sorrow. He would enter the marketplace of the butchers in Medina, and he would see a butcher was about to sacrifice a lamb, slaughter a lamb, and he would run to that butcher. He would tell him, "Have you offered this animal water?" He would be shocked. He would tell him, "Ibn Rasulullah, this is something normal. It's customary. It's not something we think about. This is something we do to all the animals that we slaughter." He tells him, "You know, my father, Hussein, was slaughtered the same way you slaughter this animal, but he was not offered even an ounce of water." And the entire marketplace would explode in tears, in crying, in lamentation. These majalis have a deep meaning to them. We have to honor them truly, truly with our hearts, with passion, with love for Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. My dear loved ones, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, he rose against shaitan. He countered the force of shaitan. In the same way that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam fought against polytheism and shirk and kufr, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam did the same thing. Yazid la'natullah alayhi, he was the embodiment of shaitan, the physical representation of shaitan, a man who would be intoxicated and show up here, intoxicated and lead Muslimin in prayer, intoxicated, unaware of what rak'ah was, unaware what time salah was, unaware of what he was even saying. He would trample people, civilians, in the streets with his horse just because they got in his way. No one was allowed to check him or tell him anything. And Imam al-Hussein rose against the corruption that was occurring at that time in the faith of Islam. You see, if Imam al-Hussein did not rise, we would not have this unaltered faith, this pure faith. And that's why we honor these majalis. There's a deep meaning behind them, my dear loved ones. You see, Al-Imam al-Sajjad and As-Sayyid Zainab, when they taught us how to engage in these majalis, it was important that it was a community gathering. It was something that everybody engaged in equally. It wasn't something that was offered for one ethnic individual composition, one, for example, people or group. It was open for all. Everyone was allowed to attend those majalis and lament. That's also something we have to keep in mind, my dear loved ones. Now, why is it important for us, however, to attend the matam, this physical place? Why is it important for us to come in person and not watch from our couch and from our homes? And I'm not bashing anyone who can't make it and who really needs to watch from home. No, there's no problem in that. But if you have the opportunity to attend in person, there's an invaluable reward to that. You see, the majalis, as I mentioned before, they're the quickest way to become a mu'min. When you attend the majalis nightly, we pray together. We pray jama'ah together on time. You make your salah. This is a declaration that salah is at the center of our life. Al-Imam al-Hussein on the day of Ashura, he prayed. He stood and he prayed even though the arrows were raining on him. They were showering on him. He stood and he prayed. He did not waver. In that same essence, when we stand for prayer every night, we're declaring that's the center of our faith. Salat amud ad-din. Not only that, you attend the majalis in person, you engage in a lively discussion with the mu'mineen and the mu'minat here. You broaden your horizon of religious knowledge. You're able to ask specific questions you might not be able to ask at home. You have access to these resources that you might not have at home. You see, Vanderbilt University, they offered a study. There was a research study done by Vanderbilt University, which found that individuals who attended worship in person, or they regularly attended a place of worship, they had a higher level of mental and physical health as those counterparts, the other sample in which did not attend. Within these majalis, you not only nourish your spirit, you also nourish yourself physically. That these majalis offer you health, not only physical health, but mental health as well, my dear loved ones. Allahumma salli ala. The Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, the Shia of the past and currently Shia in certain parts of the world, they lay down their lives to offer these majalis. To have ma'atim, in some parts of the world, it's a death sentence. Look at the Shia of Afghanistan, the Hazara that are being genocided due to their love for the Ahlul Bayt. Look at the Shia of Kashmir, look at the Shia elsewhere in many parts of the world that are killed because of their love for the Ahlul Bayt. During the time of Al-Mutawakkil Al-Abbasi, la'natullah alayh, if the Shia were caught performing ziyarah, if they were going to attend ziyarah in the way of ziyarah, they would be captured and they would be mutilated. They would chop their limbs, an arm, a leg, fingers. if they were caught even having secretive majalis in their homes, then they were sentenced to prison for life. Let's understand the blessing we have, my dear loved ones. We're in a place where we can freely raise the banner of Aba Abdullah. We're able to freely express this love we have within us. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, he tells his companions one day, he tells them that in the hearts of every mu'min and mu'minah, there is an undying flame in their heart for the martyrdom of my son Hussein. That flame will never be extinguished until the end of time. These majalis are that declaration. Fire still burns within us. There are certain engagements that happen you can't get at. What you hear, what you feel, all those are non-verbal cues that are entering your spirit. They're deeply ingrained into your life. You can't get at home, my dear loved ones. That's something you have to attend majalis in person to experience. There's a difference. There's a certain spirit that you can't feel when you're at home. You're all mu'mineen here, my dear loved ones. Imagine a year without majalis. Imagine comes a year that you're not allowed to partake in the aza of Al-Imam al-Hussein. You can't cry, you can't shed tears. You're forbidden from that. How would you feel? That would change you. That would have. It's hard to understand unless it's taken away from you. But you have to understand that ni'mah, my dear loved ones. Allahumma salli ala. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he says that the remembrance of the Ahlul Bayt, it has shifa in it. It has shifa, the remembrance of the Ahlul Bayt has shifa for physical and mental ailments, for anxiety, for depression, for paranoia. When you attend those majalis, you feel an impact on you that cures you from those ailments. Now, I'm not telling you that if you have a mental illness or a physical illness not to go and see a doctor. That's not logical. You go and see a doctor, but these majalis, they're what holds the shifa. Shifa comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you're prescribed certain medications, especially when it comes to mental illnesses, those medications can be a crutch for you, but not a cure. You need a cure. That cure comes from within. The cure for your depression, the cure for your anxiety. Yes, take your medication, speak to a therapist, speak to someone, but attend those majalis. Remember the Ahlul Bayt. They don't forsake you. They don't leave you alone to experience those hardships by yourself, my dear loved ones. Attending the matam, the physical matam as a family, that instills values within your family that go on for generations, my dear loved ones. When you bring your family, when you bring your children, they're able to understand this is something important because your kids, they see you as their role models. You're the most important person in their life. Whatever you do, they want to emulate. If you set the example that once they're older, they leave your home, they leave the nest, they go on to a new place, a new surrounding, they keep those majalis in their heart. If it's a new environment, a new community, they go and they find the local matam. They go and attend those majalis, no matter where it is. That's something that is ingrained in their blood, in their breath. It's something larger than life, my dear loved ones. We have to honor those ma'atim, these physical spaces. There's an incredible story. One of the grand scholars, one of the maraji', one day he has a majlis in his home. And it was many years ago, in times where homes were built from clay. And in that majlis, individuals were engaging in azadari, in latam. And it seems that one of the individuals, this marji', by the way, he was blind. He was completely blind. It was the later stages of his life. Attended the after the azadari, it seems that someone that was latam there, and it fell. There was some dirt, some dust, and this dust, from the barakah of that dust, he had shifa, his vision was restored. There are majalis, hold them dear to our heart. Another beautiful story I would like to share. There was an alim in Iran, in the city of Kirman. And he was the local alim there. He would give majalis, he would give ma'atim every year. And on the night of Ashura, he went and he engaged in his majlis, he finished it. And he was tired. It was a long majlis. He went home that night. He got in bed. He was about to sleep. Then he hears a knock on the door. Someone knocks the door. He goes and he opens the door. He sees it's an old man with a white beard. Assalamu alaikum, alaikum assalam. Is there any way I can help you? He tells him, is there any way you can come to my home and offer a majlis? He tells him, you know, I just finished my majlis. It was long. I'm tired. Is there any way that we can do this another time? He tells him, please, you know. I would really, really love it. I would be honored. And he tries to get out of it, but he sees this man is persistent and he's old. He's walking with a cane. He feels bad for him. He tells him, that's okay. I'll come and I'll recite for a couple minutes. He wears his clothes. He walks with this man to his home. He enters the home, he sees it's empty, there's a mimbar, there's no one there. He tells him, who should I recite for? He tells him, recite for Fatima al-Zahra alayha salam. So, salli ala Muhammad. He tells him, recite for Fatima. He stands, he sits on the mimbar, he begins recitation. And as soon as he says, Assalamu alayka ya mawla ya Aba Abdullah, he hears the voice of women crying. He sees the majlis is empty. He thinks about it. He continues his majlis. He finishes the majlis. He goes home. He sleeps that night. In his dream that night, he sees an individual full of nur, wearing green. That tells him, that woman that was crying in your majlis tonight was Fatima al-Zahra alayha salam. We have narrations from the Imams, my dear loved ones, that Sayyid Fatima al-Zahra attends those majalis. Don't take that lightly. One day, Al-Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he has a congregation of his followers, and he has one of his individuals, one of his followers is named Mismi'. He tells him, Mismi', what did you do yesterday? What did you get involved in this week? Mismi' had a secretive majlis. And he didn't want to invite the Imam because he knew the Imam, his life was in danger. If he attended that majlis, very well, he might have been martyred at that same moment. So he said, I can't invite the Imam. He kept it a secret. He didn't want to tell the Imam. He told him, I was busy. Shagalatni dunya. This dunya made me busy. He told him, Misma', tell me the truth. What did you do? And he stays quiet. He tells him, Misma', did you engage in azadari? Did you have a majlis in your home? He tells him, yes, ya ibn Rasulullah. How did you know? He tells him, Misma', when you were walking in from the door, in and out of the door to greet the individuals coming in, did you trip on someone's robes, on someone's abba? He tells him, yes, indeed. How did you know that? He tells him, Misma', that was my robe. That was my abba. He tells him, Ya ibn Rasulullah, why would you sit by the door? That's not somewhere that's of your standard, of your honor. You should be sitting on a seat. You should be sitting on an elevated surface in front of everyone. He tells him, Misma', I sit by the door on the floor because at every majlis, Fatima al-Zahra alayha salam, she stands outside the door and she looks at who is doing azadari for her son, Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. She attends those majalis. Allahumma salli ala. If you want that barakah in your life, if you want that blessing in your life, you need to attend these majalis in person, my dear loved ones. Make time. Come to the majlis. Even if it's some moments out of the night, try to do your best to attend those majalis. They'll have an impact on your life, I promise you. Because miracles happen within those majalis. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Before I conclude, I'll quickly mention some points in which we need to keep in mind in having a of running a successful matam or a successful center. First and foremost, our intention has to be purely based on the khidmah Hussein, to serve Al-Imam al-Hussein. There should be no arrogance, no pride, no difference between the organizers, the speaker, the board, the people who give the tabarruk, the people who clean. It should all be equal. Secondly, you need to have an inclusive physical space, a place that is free of cultures, a place that is free of ethnic divisions. You don't want to have a place that is only for Iraqis, or only for Pakistanis, or only for Khoja, or only for Indians, or only for Afghans, or only for Iranians. No. You have to have a place that's inclusive under the banner of Al-Imam Hussein alayhi salam. That is what is going to create an indivisible bond between your community, a strong bond. Rapidly. Everyone has to be on the same page, and it has to be a pure intention for khidmah, my dear loved ones. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Additionally, and this is a very important point, if you look around the room, you see there's a lot of youth. You have to take advantage of those youth, my dear loved ones. You have to allow the youth to create programs for themselves, and you have to allow them to lead. You see, my dear loved ones, having a youth program is important, but it's especially important to allow the youth to lead and organize themselves. Because if you have an elder within the community, organize those programs, yeah, that's good, but they're going to have a completely different outlook on life. They're going to have no idea what the youth go through these days. I myself, I'm reaching that point where I don't understand some of the things, the trends, the things that the youth go through, and you know, the hot topics and whatever it may be. You have to have the youth organize those majalis and those programs for themselves. Yes, you need an elder to preside over that. You need to instill those values within the youth and make sure they're on the right path, but you give them the freedom to have the topics they would like, have the programs they would like, have strength-based programs that allow them to feel that they're included in the majalis, in the ma'atim. You ask them what they want. You ask them how it is that you may serve them, for them to feel that they exist. They're heard. And you'll see how quickly they're going to have an attachment to this place. They'll have a deep love for this place. Even if they leave the city and go on someplace else, they'll always have an attachment to their local center. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. My dear loved ones, Al-Hurr ibn Yazid al-Riyahi, he was a companion of Al-Imam al-Hussein. He was a noble among his tribe. Before Islam, he was already known as a valiant warrior amongst the Arabs. He was known as an individual who would not back down from battle. He was known as an individual that had good characteristics, noble characteristics before Islam. And he was one of the leaders of his tribe, Al-Hurr. Leading to Ashura, Al-Imam al-Hussein was intercepted by Hurr. Hurr told him, I have orders from my commanders, my higher-ups, that I have to hold you in this area. I can't let you go on. I have orders. Al-Imam Hussein tells him, well, I'm trying to make it to Kufa. I have letters. These are the letters that I have. Al-Hurr says, I have no idea what you're talking about. Can you let me know? He reads the letters. He sees indeed many people in Kufa have dispatched Al-Imam al-Hussein to go and lead them. He tells him, I had no idea. He starts to question what he's doing. But still, he has orders from Ibn Ziyad, and he has to execute those orders. He cuts off the water supply for Al-Imam al-Hussein and his camp. He causes them to stay in a specific place known as Karbala. And time goes on, and he continuously finds out more about why Al-Imam al-Hussein is in that area. And eventually, he finds that the army of Yazid, la'natullah alayh, has cornered Al-Imam al-Hussein in this area to murder him, to kill him. And he says, you know what? I didn't sign up for that. That's not what I wanted to be involved in. And son of Rasulullah, this is the son of Fatima alayhi salam. I'm not going to engage in this. The night of Ashura, Hurr is outside the camps, and he's shivering. He's shivering. One of his companions looks to him and tells him, Hurr, are you scared? There's 70 people in that camp. We're 30,000 or more. If I was asked who the most courageous man in Kufa was, I would say Hurr. You're scared of engaging in battle? He tells him, what you don't know is I'm a son of war. I'm a man bred for war. I'm not scared of battle. What I see is heaven and hell. On this side is Jannah. On this side is Jahannam. Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam and his camp, that's Jannah. And wallah, I won't choose anything over Jannah. He takes his horse, he gallops towards the camp of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. He turns his armor upside down, inside out. He turns his shield inside out. He puts a Quran over his head. He lowers his head. This is hard for a warrior, for a brave man to lower his head. And mind you, Al-Hurr could have had everything in life. He was a commander. He gave up the dunya. He places a Quran on top of his head. He walks towards the camp of Al-Imam al-Hussein. He says, Assalamu alayk, yabna Rasulullah. Al-Imam al-Hussein says, who is that who says salam? In this we have no more Ansar, we have no more companions, no one to help us, no one who will say salam to us. Who is that in the darkness of this night? I am the one who brought you here. I am the one who trapped you here. I am the one who spread fear in the hearts of the women and the children of Rasulullah, in the heart of Sayyid Zainab. I made her scared. He says, Al-Imam al-Hussein says, Al-Hurr, he says, indeed. And he says, Yabna Rasulullah, hal li min tawbah? Is there any tawbah left? Can I repent for what I've done? He tells him, if you do tawbah, then Allah will grant you tawbah. Allah will grant you forgiveness. He wants to get off his horse. Al-Imam al-Hussein says, come off your horse so I can hug you, I can say salam to you. He tells him, Aba Abdullah, grant me one honor. Don't let me get off my horse. Allow me to die on my horse. Don't allow me to come off my horse until I take my last breaths. He tells him, I have one request, Aba Abdullah. What is that request, Hur? He tells him, I was the first one who brought you here, who damaged the heart of you, spread fear in her heart, who bothered you. Allow me to be the first individual to sacrifice my life for you, Aba Abdullah. He tells him, of course. He tells him, but please allow my son to go before me. He tells him, why would you want your son to go into battle before you? He tells him, I'm afraid if my son sees me dying, he might be afraid of death. He might not offer himself to those swords. He might not offer himself as a sacrifice. He rushes towards him. He holds his head. Al-Hur is bleeding. Parts of his body. And Al-Imam al-Hussein, indeed, you are a free man. Anta hur kama sammatka ummuk. You are a free man as your mother called you a free man. Hur. My dear loved ones, one last thing before I conclude. Abu Talib alayhi salam, he would protect the Prophet. He would protect Rasulullah. Please turn off the lights. He would protect Rasulullah in all times. When individuals would harass him, when individuals would be aggressive with him, would assault him, Abu Talib was the one who would protect the Prophet. One day, the Prophet comes to Abu Talib. He tells him, they assaulted me, they threw rocks at me, I'm bleeding. I have no one but to turn to but you. I have no parents. Abu Talib takes his hand. He tells him, who was it? Abu Talib takes his sword and he goes to those enemies of Allah, the tribal leaders of Quraysh, and he tells them, who was it that harassed Muhammad? Who was it that assaulted Muhammad? And he takes his staff and he hits them, and he does unto them what they've done unto the Prophet. They're scared of Abu Talib. I have to ask Abu Talib, oh Abu Talib, where were you on the 10th day of Muharram, where Al-Imam al-Hussein said, Hal bin Nasirin yansurana? Is there anyone to protect us? Is there anyone to fight? Where were you, oh Abu Talib, when Sayyida Zainab was in the streets of Kufa with her orphans, lonely, with no one to help her, looking from one corner to another corner, telling Al-Imam Zain al-Abidin, my dear loved one, my beloved Ali, please take us to a private place. Everyone is looking at us. Everyone is seeing us. Allahu Akbar. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. My dear loved ones, raise your hands in dua. اللهم إننا نسألك وندعوك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم يا Allah. Oh Allah, offer shifa to those of us who are dealing with mental health, physical health issues, cancer, diabetes, whatever it may be. Allah, give us total health and shifa. Oh Allah, offer us the shafa'ah of Al-Imam al-Hussein. Oh Allah, offer us the continued khidmah and servitude of Al-Imam al-Hussein. Oh Allah, bless our ma'atim, bless our majalis in the name of Aba Abdullah. Oh Allah, whoever is in debt among us, whoever needs halal rizq, oh Allah, grant them that halal rizq. وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات نهدي ثواب سورة الفاتحة مع الصلوات. Please rise, my dear loved ones. اللهم صل على محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة. وليا حافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا، تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. صلوات.
One quick announcement before we go for Matam. Brother Wasi's brother-in-law passed away in Pakistan. So please recite Surah Fatiha for Sayyid Ali Abbas, son of Sayyid Khurshid Hassan.